a cross-section of Freehold, a non-profit section for the purpose of ensuring that development policies and projects in the city of Newark, the state of New Jersey, follow principles of equity and achieve the maximum amount of inclusion and opportunity for its current and future residents.
Madam Assistant BA, could you interpret this language for us? Oh, good. Somebody's here.
There he is. Altair Shabazz, Affordable Housing Division, EHD.
Yes.
This is to establish the Equitable Growth Commission, and this is just a commission, an advisory commission that will give the city information on policies and different ideas on how to ensure that the city grows in an equitable fashion. With all of the economic development and the economic resurgence that we're experiencing right now, the mayor and the administration.
Welcome to another edition of Newark in 10. I'm your host, Sienna Chanel. Singer, songwriter, composer, musician Wyclef Jean shares his Newark story as Mayor Baraka and the Prudential Center unveiled the Wyclef Jean mural.
Now I'm the one. I know what y'all thinking, me too. But in this game of numbers, they could only be a few. I'm the Trinity, homie. Now peep the riddle, kid. One man on two sticks, what's that? The crucifix. At least it's what they taught me in Sunday school. Forgive my foes. Fives pointed at Pinocchio's nose. Skip to 6, go to 7. That's the number of completion. Here's the real story. Y'all ready for this? Like, when we both were young men, we had an idea, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, yo, you know, I'm gonna be creating the big super group, and it's gonna be called the Fugees, you know? And he's like, yo, that's all good and all, but I'm gonna be the president. Adam ate the apple, so they cast him from the Garden of Eden. Jealousy got him waving his 9. Cain kills Abel, he a 10 man. That means his heart pumps. 2 ones ain't enough to make it rain. Microphone check 1, 2. Hip hop lives in my vein.
Newark, we already know that Newark is in the top 10 of art vibrant cities in the U.S., but we're not just talking about one part of our city, not only downtown, but all of our neighborhoods.
And Newark is a city of many talents. It's the birthplace of some of the most influential artists over the past century, including Jerry Lewis, Bill Bellamy, Gloria Gaynor, Whitney Houston, and the broader Fugees.
From the era dudes scraps with their hands. Play Friday the 13th, get Cobra clutch or body slam. But my nephews, they don't use their hands no more. It's M14s, M15s, guns, and roses at your sweet 16. And I was born on October 17th. That's the day them niggas killed my leader, Jean-Jacques Dessalines.
We think art is essential to growth, to economic growth, to social growth, to intellectual growth, to community growth. Without art, we don't have community.
My mama told me there's monsters under my bed. They 18, so think the 19th hour. Malcolm X by any means. 20/20 vision, they say the good die young. Now I had to trick death. That's how I made it past 21.
I went to Velsburg High School in Newark. If it wasn't for Velsburg High School, I would not be standing here before you. The teachers were spectacular.
But what if Martin Luther stayed in the room, never stepped foot in the balcony? What if they had a bulletproof car instead of a drop top for Kennedy? Malcolm X did the speech. What if I sat amongst the congregation? So when them boys scream, get your hands out of my pocket, I fired shots at the assassin. Listen, youngins, ain't nothing new under the sun. What if I had put blank in Marvin Gaye's father's gun? What if y'all knew the truth before sending your kids to war?
No action required here. There will be a public meeting held on November 27th in regards to this?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay. So there's no action
Next item, Mr. Clerk, to resolutions.
Resolutions. Resolution 7R1A is an application and an agreement with HUD for the one-year action plan.
Next one.
B is a application and agreement with the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Division of Housing and Community Resources for the 2019 Anti-Violence and Out-of-School Grant.
Next item.
C is a budget insertion for the 2019 Sub-Regional Transportation Planning Program. D is a budget insertion for street resurfacing of various streets.
Next one.
E is a budget insertion to augment the existing sexually transmitted disease services such as improvement diagnostics and treatment functions.
Mr. Clerk, just for the record, these items were already voted on, and we're just now putting the language into.
We're putting the money into
Putting the
budget.
money, thank you.
Yes.
I just want to make sure somebody's following these items.
F is a bid contract for maintenance and repair of air conditioning and heating systems. G is a bid contract for the maintenance and repair of masonry. H is a bid contract to provide janitorial services for various city facilities.
I wanted to address that. I wasn't sure if now's the time or after when you're done.
Right after the
Excuse
meeting.
who are you? I'm sorry, who are you?
My name is Gabriel Halpern. I'm an attorney for United Services, Inc.
He can speak.
Discuss.
Madam President, I don't
Yes.
think we can discuss any contract with any vendor. I mean, that's something the administration, you would have to, I think you need to address it with the administration, not.
It's my understanding you have a lawsuit.
Correct?
He has the option
Then,
of speaking.
when-
He has the option of speaking to the council and giving you information during the hearing of citizens, but
Yeah, they're not
you don't have to respond to him.
He has a lawsuit.
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll wait until corporate, if you can just have a seat.
Thank you.
When corporate counsel comes down.
I'm not talking about it, we have a lawsuit.
What?
5 people.
I don't want to discuss that. Deal with them.
Okay.
Next item, Mr.
I,
Clerk.
as a bid
I just
contract-
had my hand spanked by Councilman McCollum.
I is a bid contract to provide water treatment disinfectant.
Water, okay, go ahead.
J is a bid contract to provide water leak detection systems. 7R2A is a acceptance for grant funds for the community-based violence prevention program. B is the acceptance
I'd
for
like to sponsor that.
Second.
B is a acceptance of grant funds for the Workforce Learning Link program. C is the acceptance of grant funds to train Workforce New Jersey clients.
That's good.
7R3A is a resolution of support for the Route 280 with Orange Street and Final Street imperfections improvements.
No. You're happy with it? Yes. Okay. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
7R4A is a tax sale on or before the 31st.
I'm sorry?
This is a tax sale that will be scheduled on or before the 31st of this year.
Yes.
December.
Oh, yes.
Seven R5A is a contract with grant recipients for emergency shelter services. We will discuss.
Next item.
We will discuss 6A, 6B, no, 6A,
Through
6C, and 6D in executive session with Corporation Counsel. 7R8A is a approval of a constable bond. B is approval of a constable bond. C is also the approval of a constable bond. D D are various recognizing and commending resolutions. 7R9A is a acceptance of application and acceptance of grant funds for funding to upgrade the police division's computer-aided dispatch system.
Any comments? Next item.
9B is authorizing the use of competitive contracting.
Mr. Clerk, I do have a question. It may be elementary. So why is this process better than public bidding?
That's a question I cannot answer. That's a question I cannot answer.
Councilman Gonzalez, can you help me out?
They qualify many providers that can provide the service by, say, what they have is a request for proposals or request for qualifications. The people submit the qualifications, they qualify as to provide that service, and then they can go to any one of those that qualify to procure what the city wants to buy. Usually it's for services that let's say you have a group of engineers or a group of attorneys qualified to provide the service, and then you can go to anyone that has been approved to get the service.
It's a service-based requirement as opposed to the lowest bidder.
Yes. My question, I guess, is will this be prohibitive to smaller businesses who may not be able to compete?
I believe it's better for small businesses because if they, say you have a small legal firm that is qualified, you may qualify that firm to provide the service. Otherwise, that firm might not be in a position to provide the lowest responsible
bidder.
Because it's a service-based requirement, a small firm that can prove that they have can provide the services could get the contract, whereas a larger firm which could provide the service would be able to do it at a lower price. But because it's not lower price is not required, it would give the smaller firm an opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for the explanation. Next item.
709C is the authorizing the use of competitive bidding contract.
Next item.
On pending business, 9A is this is the item that the council had a question about. This is a special program for the West Ward Victims Outreach Services.
Yeah, I think we voted for it, yeah.
Okay.
Council President, you had a question about the last line of the title?
The young man, yes. You said that young man of color, and you
Yes.
you had some issues with that phrase.
I think it should be
Young man, period.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know why that was added.
why that was added.
Because that's not what the grant called for.
That was my question, not question, my objection.
I'll get more information from Dr. Wade, but, I mean, I guess my information is conflicting with Councilman McCollum's, but I thought that was what the grant was written. That was the words in the grant.
Okay. A long time ago.
Yes.
A year and a half probably. that
Yes.
voted on it, so it's possible, but I don't see why it would be worded that way.
Your last statement, you don't see why it
That
would...
would be, well,
Why it's
we have an issue.
restrictive. That's a restrictive statement.
It might be required
Well,
by the grantee.
if there's data that says that men of color are more susceptible to violence in communities, and that's what the grant was written to support that, then that's why that language would be there.
Okay,
So I guess, yes, I would confirm with Dr. Wade is this language from the grant. It's not language that we're putting out. It's, we're accepting funds from a grant that was written directed towards that particular population.
Can you get that information to us by tomorrow?
Yes, before tomorrow, yes.
Thank you.
$10A are various bingo or raffle license.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk, I was talking.
10A, various bingo and raffle licenses. 11, public hearing, we have at this point 10 speakers. There are 2 additional speakers that signed up by the closing deadline.
I think there are 2.
Yes.
2 additional.
2 additional. That concludes the agenda. We have, trying to get to you, tomorrow at the meeting, there will be an added starter for competitive contracting to provide operating and management services for the Municipal Television Studio. This is Edward Joseph Cologne Productions, Inc. There are several other items that are trying to get to you, but they're not yet ready. There's a refund of a code compliance fee or resolution. There is a resolution for a grant agreement for funds exchange program, and there is an ordinance entitled a hotel occupancy tax.
What is that?
Yes. Corporate Counsel is here.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Kenyatta Stewart, City of Newark Law Department. So tomorrow, I'll give more details, but the idea is that we're going to be dealing with the Airbnb possibilities. There are a number of things that are happening across the state that has to regulate, that gives the city the right to regulate and get taxed from Airbnb and things of that nature. I'll speak to them in great detail tomorrow, but the point is that we need to have control over where they can be in the city, and the fact that we are entitled to a tax for them, and that'll be something to dialogue for tomorrow.
Any more questions for Corp Counsel?
I have a question for Mr. Scott, for Phil Scott.
Oh, sure. You want to go back into the agenda?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
There was
I
an
apologize
item.
for being late, but I know there's a contract here or a grant agreement for street resurfacing.
Right.
And I just wanted to
Director Scott?
get an idea of where we are as it pertains. I know this year we had planned for a number of streets to be paved, and there were some delays because the council had deferred a contract in the summer. Or is there any additional paving going on right now? And if it's not happening now, when do we project some of those projects that were to be completed this year to be completed?
Good morning. Philip Scott, Director of Engineering. So yes, there was a contract that was awarded late during the summer. We put out a project to bid. We weren't able to get it awarded as soon as we would have liked, so the contractor moved on to another town. We've got them to come back to Newark, and they are working right now, but we aren't able to get as many streets done as we would have liked. They do have a schedule. They're going to pave all the way through the end of November. As long as the asphalt plants stay open, they're going to continue the work as long as they can.
Can you send us the schedule of what's going to be paved in each ward between now and the end of the year?
Absolutely. You'll get that today.
Okay. Thank you, Director.
Any other questions for
Just
Director?
one question. All the streets that have been ripped apart by PSE&G, are they coming back to fix them?
Absolutely. Every street that they've touched that has been paved within the last 7 years, they have an obligation to come back and repave the street curb to curb.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Councilman McCallum.
Director, in this, these funds that we're going to vote on, is it including the speed humps that people want taken up?
No. We have no plans to take up any speed humps right now.
Well, that's a conflict in information. It was supposed to take one up on North 12th Street. It's the cruisers.
Okay.
Take it out?
Yeah, it's affecting his infrastructure of his home.
Want to move it up?
Putting cracks in the walls and stuff.
Can you place
Because
it
the
somewhere
trucks
else?
come through there. There's a truck park a block away, and the trucks come through there, and when they hit the speed hump, it's shaking his house, cracking the infrastructure.
You said it's on North 12th Street. I will confirm.
We talked about that, and then also with Kim Singleton. And that's why I say there's a conflict, because she explained that there will be funds that would come out of the grant money to remove the speed hump. So that's one of the issues with speed humps. Some people want them taken up. So many people want them, and then some people want them taken up. So that's one of the issues.
We could only move them.
Because then they cause problems. So everybody, oh, I want a speed hump, I want a speed hump. Then when they get them, and their cars start, the bumpers start getting hit, and,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Well, you have to, sometimes you don't know what you want
You don't know what you want sometimes.
until you get it.
I think the expression is be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. Madam President, I have a quick comment. I have seen that the PSE&G is cutting a lot of trees. This morning I was driving on Summer Avenue, and they trim all the trees on Summer Avenue on one side of the avenue. Are they planning to replace some of those trees?
That's part of a infrastructure project that they're doing, and they will.
They are putting higher poles, but in the meantime, they cut all the trees that people had for shade in front of their houses.
Yes, so as part of one of their infrastructure projects that they're doing, they're running new electric lines with higher poles. So they do have to trim some of the trees, but in that process, they're doing a lot of additional work. They're planting additional trees, as well as they're doing some improvements to the medians on Heller Parkway. We've been working with the Councilman Ramos's office with that, and we're making good progress.
Yeah, they started that project last year along Heller Parkway near the tennis courts, and now they've expanded it. And it's really done a lot to help us address some of the power outage issues that we historically have
But
up there.
maybe what they should do is cut the trees down and plant, let's say, appropriate trees.
Well, that is part of the agreement. They have to do.
That is part of the work that they're doing. They're replacing a lot of trees. Some trees that, you know, they're just trimming and pruning to maintain, but they're replacing and planting a lot of new trees.
Any other comments? Mr. Clerk, can we have the,
Before we go to executive session, let's go back to 6 FSNF-A. This is the legal representation.
which one?
On page 3, 6 FSNF-A, the legal representation for tenants.
Sure, I can address it. Just for the record, Kenyatta Stewart, City of Newark Law Department. So we did receive a late request for an amendment to a certain portion of it from a member of the community. We thought we were done, but however, we did receive a late request for a slight amendment that was on Monday, I believe. I just spoke to Jay Lee a few moments ago. He has had some dialogue with that person, but we do want to speak to them to make sure we clear it up. I don't want this to be a situation where we're doing something and we're not on the same page. So with that said, we're going to ask for you to defer it. I thought we were done, but unfortunately, like I said, we got a very late Monday evening request for a slight, change. I know I wasn't here for another portion of the meeting when you spoke to the janitorial services contract. I'm going to ask that it be deferred for tomorrow. We did have a miscommunication between my department and the purchasing department in reference to one of the actual bidders. We had to change some things at last minute. As a result of that, unfortunately, one of the necessary documents may not have been added to the letter star attachment that we need. So we're going to ask for it to be deferred.
No problem. Anybody?
Madam President.
Yes. Councilman Amador?
I wasn't here for the 6BSFD, the handicap ordinance, but I want to sit down with Councilman Ramos and go over the figures. Yeah. And maybe by tonight, we'll have a consensus on those numbers.
And Madam President,
Yes.
we had also requested at least 3 times through your chair to set up a meeting with the health director, with Dr. Wade, because he had some concerns related to the implementation and the expectations for his department. So I would like for myself, Councilman Amador, and Dr. Wade to sit down and discuss the ordinance and make sure that he's comfortable with what's being asked of his department.
I do believe this is the third time you've made that request. So, Mr. Clerk, I'm sorry.
I had requested also a list of the total number of of permits that have been issued, so to determine how that's going to affect the, let's say, the provision or the providing the medical services to these individuals. I haven't received anything. I don't know if any of you have received, the clerk have received the list of all the people that have the disabled permits.
Elmer, can you come to the mic, please? Could you speak into the microphone?
Made, we wanted to go over a form of a new application. Also, there was an issue, I believe, of the charge that was going to be made that had to be discussed.
And I think the intent here for Councilman Amador and myself is to create some stronger controls on the issuance of, you know, the signage, handicap signage, because we believe that there's some abuses in the system, but at the same time, we have to be sensitive to the fact that we have a population that, in many instances, does not have, you know, the financial wherewithal to pay, you know, an excessive amount of money for these fees. So
Yes.
that's kind of like the balance that we want to make sure we strike here. And the expectation of the health department really was to attest to the validity of the disability that the person is alleging. So that was really how we wanted the health department to be involved. Because a lot of times it's as simple as getting a note from your doctor, and then you're able to request, you know, the handicap signage.
When they do provide the information regarding the number of handicap applications, they should not provide a simple number, but all they have to do, and we've done this before, is go into the system and get a list of all the handicap addresses throughout the entire city and distribute it to all the council members. You'll be surprised of what we see there.
If I may, members of the council, the deputy clerk did receive the information that in 2017 there were 325 of those permits issued, and in 2018, 270 so far to date. Also, I would also remind you that in this new procedure that's being suggested by the amendment to ordinance, after the examination by medical personnel employed by the city, there is one last requirement in this proposed ordinance, which is a resolution by the council before the approval can be effected, which will be another safeguard.
As other cities do.
Yes.
As other cities.
Mr. Clerk, the recommendation
And I'm surprised that.
from Councilman,
Madam President, if I may, I am surprised that only 325 permits have been issued because.
No. In permits for that year.
Yes, but let's say once it's issued, do they have, how often do they have to go back to engineering to get that renewed? Because if you go to the eastward in one street, you may find 325 permits.
yes, Councilman Quintana.
Since the Director of Health, Dr. Wade, also, a lot of the funeral homes are having a problem with, they have to go to other cities because there's no health officer that can sign off. As a matter of fact, there was an example of a body that had to was going over to Puerto Rico, and because of not having a health officer, they had to go to another town to get a waive. So, I mean, I think that's needs to be looked at. And what they're saying is, the funeral homes are saying is that they have called, and the city's response, the health department's response is, we have no health officer.
Councilman, if I may, so in the last few In the last few days, actually, the city of Newark has been in contact with a number of municipalities who are willing to do somewhat of a shared services agreement with us. We are finalizing that now. However, prior to that, the city of Newark was actually using the health officer from the county, and that person was responsible for helping us with our stuff. We are going to be in the process of having our own health officer in place 100% in the very near future. However, for right now, what we're doing is working with one of our neighboring cities.
Any other comments? Councilman Amador.
I'd like to raise another issue. As I was leaving my office this morning to come here, a gentleman walked in and he said that, and I'd like to take advantage of the fact that Mr. Scott is here. He said that he works with real estate, and he said it takes 10 days to get a date, not 10 days to do the inspection on a sale, 10 days to get a date for an inspection on a sale of a property. Right now, is there any way we can improve on that?
Good morning. Are we talking about CCC inspections for transfer of property?
Right.
Yes, so we've been trying to improve on that. We used to do it where we did it one day a week. We would do all CCC inspections. Now we're doing them weekly, every day during the week.
But what he said was that when he called, it took 10 days for somebody to get back to him to get a date. Not 10 days to get the inspection, 10 days to get a date. That's his concern. He said 10 days to get an inspection is not a problem.
10 days to get a return call is what.
Right.
Yeah, so no, that's a problem, and we'll fix that immediately. And also, myself and the COO, Ms. Natasha Rogers, we've been meeting to fix the process. We've had a couple challenges over the years. So, we're looking at everything. We're looking at the inspectors that we're putting on the jobs. We're looking at how we handle the paperwork internally, how we take the calls in. So we're definitely looking to speed up the process. We don't want to hold up anybody from being able to transfer the properties.
Director, that's something that I believe is primed to be computerized, that application. That's a very simple application that people should be able to go to a web page and send it in. It's something that I believe begs the question why it hasn't been done.
Actually, it is an electronic form that you can fill out online. We have it where actually you can only do it online. If you want to do it any other way, you would have to come down. Obviously, that would take you much longer period of time. But yes, we do it electronically. But for the,
do we respond electronically?
I'm sorry, do we respond?
Do we respond electronically to the person asking for the date?
That I'm not certain. I have to confirm that and get back to you. But the application process is online. That's the way that we do take in all of the applications.
And then we should be able to answer that request in the same way, so that that person knows when the inspection is going to be, and we don't have to wait the 10 days.
Agreed. So what I will do is I'll confirm that whether or not we can do it online, and if we cannot, I will make sure that we do online so that we can schedule the days so people are not waiting for a time, so that they know immediately when their scheduled date is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Anyone else? Ms. Clerk? Oh, I'm sorry.
In the meantime, Madam President, I just want to congratulate the winners on yesterday's election.
Yes.
Big wins for the Democrats in the state. We picked up, or the Democrats picked up, 3 new representatives in Congress.
Yes.
And maybe one more that is too close to call. So congratulations to all.
So we're going to have an open house.
Yeah.
That's a pun.
What was that?
Yeah, that's a pun. It may be an open house, with the house. Yes, right. Mr. Clerk, I'm sorry. Public speaking?
Madam President, before we go into executive session, I'd like to do the public speaking portion of this meeting. This is a 30-minute period in which speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak. When you begin speaking, you will see a small timing device on the podium in front of you, which will begin counting down your time. When you reach the 2-minute mark, the yellow light will illuminate, indicating that you have 1 minute remaining for a summation. When you reach the 3rd minute, the red light will illuminate, and there will be an audible sound indicating that your time has expired. Please look forward, speak into the microphone. We are recording these proceedings, and if you turn away, we may miss part of your statement. Please address questions to the chair and not to individual council members. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak at this time?
No one appearing.
No one appearing? Council as a
One
whole, go
appearing.
into executive session.
Yes.
Yes.
James absent.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Shriver absent. Osborne.
Yes.
Quintana.
Yes.
Ramos. President Trump.
Yes. Executive session.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going into an executive session unless you have a part in these items to be